Hello there. I'm with someone who's turned out to be a friend and I'm his sous chef at times, Monsignor James Vaughan. Thank you for coming on with us today. How are you?
Great. And it's great to be with you, Dr. Shlofmitz. Thanks for having me.
Well, you look great. It's good to see you, and I hope everything's good with you guys over at the network. The reason why we're doing this today is to try to raise funds to help everybody out in the hospitals financially, because we're really being stressed here, and it was really nice of you to come on with us. So we sort of met, I guess, on TV cooking together, right?
Absolutely. I have a cooking show called Real Food. And I remember hearing that you like to cook. And I was so excited that you'd be able to come on. And you've come on a couple of times. It's really been terrific.
Really has. It's been great. I have a couple of new recipes sometime I'd love to go show you. None of them are healthy, you know that.
I know. You cooked hamburgers and onion rings one time with me. I almost passed out.
With a fried egg and bacon, don't forget.
Yes, of course.
But I like to eat as well as cook. And I'm doing a lot of cooking now because our hours are different. So I'm getting to experiment. So I'll test it out on you one day once this all passes.
Good.
But, you know, we've talked on these segments here now. I've talked to politicians, I've talked to doctors, I've talked to patients, spoken to people in Europe. And, you know, a lot of it's about what people are going through and what hospitals are going through. But we haven't really touched upon the spiritual aspect of this. And everybody has a lot of time to think when they're home. They're home more than they usually are, and they can really wonder what the future brings for them. And I imagine that this is a trying time in your profession. First of all, people, I imagine, can't come in group to mass or church or a temple, and you know how you reach out, how you help them. So I imagine you've come up with some ways to reach out to the community. If you could touch upon that.
Sure. Yeah. It's so interesting because, and I think it's probably true in this, services in the synagogue. I mean, by their nature, they're communal. It's people coming together. So I am celebrating Mass alone. I mean, I'm just celebrating Mass. It's me and God. It's a very different kind of way to be. But there is a certain connection that comes about. I think that, in a way, this kind of goes to a common denominator thing, that even though we're all isolated in so many different ways, there's a link here. And the link is that God created all of us, and that there's that linkage back to him. He's that chain, if you will, that links us to one another. He's that link that's so important for us. And I think about that all the time. A few different things come to my mind all the time when I'm celebrating Mass. One of the things I think about, first of all, is all of you. Because helping our sick folks, boy, it's incredible to see the risk that you're taking every day, but secondly, the compassion and love that you bring. You become family to these people who can't have visitors, first of all. Secondly, I think of all those people who are in the hospital and isolated and scared. And what could that possibly be like? And I try to pray for those people all the time and kind of link to them in different ways. One of the great gifts we have is what we're doing right now, right? Social media is such a great way for us to remain connected. The other day we had Mass, Easter Sunday Mass, and we had 142,000 people on our website alone. Can you imagine that? Just on the website. That doesn't include television. It doesn't include, all the other ways, Roku, Apple TV, all the other ways we're available, just watching on the website. So people are looking for it.
You brought up a really good point. You mentioned that families can't be with their families in the hospital. And that's one of the hardest things for us to deal with, because we can't have visitors in. They drop their family member off, and some of them end up on ventilators. And it's just what the families are going through. So we, as cardiologists, at least here at St. Francis, if we're not doing our typical procedures, we're on the phone with family members every day, trying to either FaceTime with their family loved one and talk to them, answer questions, give them some sense of what's going on. It's very tough for us, and I imagine it's tough for you too. Have you had to interact with many people who've had the virus and help them out?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, the minute that we're done here, I'm getting in my car and I'm driving to the house of a 40-year-old guy who is in the last stages, unfortunately, of a cancer that has gotten combined now with COVID-19. And I'm going to do the prayers of the church at the end of somebody's life. Now, how am I doing this? Well, I'm going to go and I'm going to stand outside of his house, and we're going to FaceTime. I'm going to FaceTime into the house, and he'll be inside the house watching me outside of the house, and I'm going to do those prayers of the church. we have to adapt. We have to figure out ways, and you're doing the same thing. And I think that's, that I think God inspires us to adapt a little bit, don't you think?
Absolutely. In terms of changing and adapting, I know our administration did a wonderful job. We, as you know, our cardiac center, and we're doing cardiac procedures, which we're not doing unless they're emergent now. So our staff had to be retrained to go into the field to do COVID-related things. Are you? I just thought of this when you mentioned this. Are you getting different people in the ministry to go out who were trained to do other things, because you must be so spread thin?
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, there are people who are just volunteering to help us. I know of a priest not long ago who went over to a hospital, same kind of thing, to anoint someone who was in that process of dying and going home to God. And he asked the nurse who was standing there praying with him, would you go into the room, and because she was all gloved up and masked up and everything else, would you go in, please, and bless him with this holy water? So yeah, it's a time when we have to come together. It's a time where like the skills kind of come together. And I was thinking everything, I said this to a number of person, everything up to now has really been rehearsal, hasn't it? Like this is where humanity really has to use every gift we have to come together.
Well, you are an incredible person. Everybody loves watching you on television. If you ever have an empty spot and want me to bring in a new unhealthy recipe, I'll be right there for you if you need me for anything. And thank you for taking the time. And I hope this helps us. I'm sure when people see you, they're going to open up their pocketbooks and wallets, and I wish you the best.
Thank you so much, and please help, because I think when we come together, it's the old story, no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And it's about doing something with our talents, but also with our treasures that will help us to get through this together. So thanks for having me.
Take care.